Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our podcast. My name is Chris,
And my name is James,
and we are the Formula One Bros.
just two twins with the love of F1 to share our thoughts on everything in the world of Formula One. And today, as we're recording this, it is Sunday, March 13th, which means it is officially it's the most wonderful time of the year. There'll be podiums and trophies and wheel to wheel racing and champagne to spray. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's race week. Finally, in 2022, it is race week.
You're a nerd.
I know. I know.
Um, yeah, so excited. So this week it is officially race week. We're going to be bringing you all of our official preseason predictions, which are normally after testing, like you can kind of tell, like you can make like some decent predictions. These are just shots in the dark. Like we have no idea.
It's tough to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
At least, especially with this season, which makes it really exciting.
Yeah.
It makes it really, really exciting.
These are our.
It's bringing me back shades of 2012. I know we've talked about that a lot, but like in 2012, after testing, like what ended up happening, no one could have predicted based off of testing. And I kind of feel like something like that is going to happen this year. So,
yeah. So these are our way too early to predict predictions for the season.
Yeah, way too early. But we'll go ahead and jump right in. So what we'll do is for this, we are going to give our predictions of where all of the teams are going to shake out from 10th place all the way up to first place. And then we are going to share some of our own kind of predictions of things that we think will happen outside of team finishing places.
Out, as well as we'll each give our own personal thoughts on who will finish in the top 3 in the championship.
Yes, we'll give our
drivers championship,
top 3 drivers championship, which we've got some spicy takes. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Got some spicy takes. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first place we'll go ahead and talk about is in 10th place. Chris, who do you think will finish at the bottom this year?
Oh gosh, I am going to go with Williams.
I'm going to go with Williams. What makes you say Williams?
The car just looked really hard to drive. After recording yesterday, I went back and looked at a couple onboards of Williams just because I wanted to know a little bit more how the car was behaving. And it just looks tough to drive. It looks really slow through the slow corners. So yeah, and I think I was tempted to put Haas and Alfa Romeo below them, but I think it's just hard because those teams look quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, those teams just look quicker. I think with all 3 of those teams, Haas, Alfa Romeo, and Williams, reliability is going to be a problem. So
yeah,
I think for those 3 teams, it could be either of them in 10th, but I am going to go with Williams.
Gotcha. So it was tough for me, but this may be a little bit of controversial of a take, but I in 10th place have Alfa Romeo. Mm-hmm. Now, in preseason testing, we did see them, put up some pretty scorching laps, and do really well and lighten up the time charts a little bit. But that car, for me, the reason I have them in 10th is reliability. Purely just reliability. If you can't finish, you can't be in the running to score points. And that's kind of where I'm at with them. It looks quick when it's on. That car looks quick, but at least from testing, when it's on, looks like it's not happening very often. Yeah. At least right now.
Yeah.
So in 10th place, I have Alfa Romeo.
And I will say with my prediction of Williams, I think it kind of seems like I'm pegging them back a little bit this year. And I don't think that's the case. I think the goalpost has just moved. For me with Williams, I think they have improved the car. I think overall it looks like a much more well-rounded package.
Yeah.
So, but I think the goalposts have just moved. I think they're still going to score points. But I think, yeah.
That's I like that. I like that. Now, speaking of Williams, in ninth place, that's where I'm putting Williams. I'm putting Williams in ninth place. And like you said, the car does look a little bit hard to drive, but at least throughout testing, they were having less reliability issues than the likes of Alfa Romeo. So that's, for me, that's what's putting Williams ahead, is reliability, not necessarily pace.
Yeah. Ninth place, this is where I'm putting Haas. I think anywhere you put any three of these bottom teams, I think Haas is going to end up ninth. They look really strong. I think they look much stronger than Williams compared to them. I think, for them, they have spent so much time at the back. I think it's hard to come back from something like that, even though I think they have improved the car.
Yeah.
But to be completely honest, I think it's going to be a coin flip between Haas and Alfa Romeo, for me, at least for me. But I'm putting Haas in ninth.
Gotcha. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. It really is going to be, it seems like it's going to be a coin flip for a lot of these teams as to where they're going to finish, which makes these predictions really tough, but it's going to make the season pretty exciting. And speaking of Haas in eighth place, that is where I personally have Haas finishing in eighth place. While they were having their fair share of reliability issues, the car looks to be so significantly improved this year. And as we've seen, it can be pretty quick.
Yeah.
Now, how often they're going to be able to have that happen, I'm not too sure. But for me, that I'm putting Haas in eighth place.
Yeah, I think the other thing about Haas, and I mentioned this yesterday, is the fact that they, took all of 2021 off developing their current car, and they spent all of 2021 developing their 2022 car. And after 3 days of running in Barcelona, I was unsure. It looks promising, but I think the running in Bahrain gave me all of the confirmation that I need to know that is the case, that they have made improvements on it. I am putting Alfa Romeo just ahead of them. I think both of those teams are going to have their reliability issues, as Haas and Alfa Romeo always do. Yeah. But I am more confident in Valtteri Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou as well. I'm more confident in Valtteri Bottas. I think he is going to, in qualifying, he is going to absolutely wring the neck of that car. And I think he's going to be able to put it in a place where maybe it doesn't deserve to be, but it will run well over a long run. I think Guan Yu Zhou has a wealth of experience to get from Valtteri Bottas, and I think he's going to benefit a lot from that. But again, I think it's really those bottom three teams. It's going to come down to who DNFs the least. I really think that's what it's going to be. So close your eyes and throw a dart.
Yeah. Now at the next placement in seventh, who do you have in seventh place? This is where it can get a little bit tricky. Well, I guess the whole field is really tricky to pin down, but who do you have in seventh?
I am going to put Alpine in seventh.
I think that's who I was going to put in seventh as well. I think Alpine. It's not that the car looks bad. It's not that the car looks bad at all. It's just they were having a lot of reliability issues.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the case for, the second half, or the bottom half of this field is really who's going to have the least reliability issues.
Yeah, I think so.
I think seventh I would agree with you. I think seventh is a good place to predict where Alpine will finish.
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm putting them there is not because I don't think that they're quick. I think they are quick. And I truly think positions 5 through 10 anybody's game. I truly do believe that. I think we have a good idea of who's going to be 4 through 1, like maybe moving around the placements, but I think 5 through 10 is going to be tough. But I'm going to say that not because I don't believe that they're quick, but the car looks heavy to drive. You know, I was following along Fernando Alonso's lap that put him in P3, which is obviously a great lap. Little bit of a glory run there at the very end, popping in, you know, the last like 10, 20 minutes of testing. But it just looked heavy to drive, little bit understeery, little unpredictable.
Yeah.
And I think the cars above them, I think there's more reason to believe that they look a little bit like, from a package standpoint, it looks a little bit more grounded.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah. Cool. So with that, we'll go on to 6th place. This one's also a little bit tricky for me, and this may be a little bit controversial for me. I have Aston Martin in 6th place. That's who I have in 6th place.
I have AlphaTauri in 6th place. Mainly because I think I'm still waiting to see how consistent Yuki Tsunoda can be. The car's quick, and I think can compete with Aston Martin. And there will probably be races in which the AlphaTauri is faster than the Aston Martin. But I think those races are going to be more far between than I think over the course of the season. I think the Aston Martin is just going to be quicker. And I think, yeah, I'm waiting to see a little bit more. I am hoping that Yuki Tsunoda proves me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he does, because I really want him to do well. And we know he's quick. He's properly quick, you know, and he's popular within the team. You know, the team are invested in him. I want him to do well, but I just think when it comes to just an overall pairing of Lance Stroll and Sebastian Vettel, I think that gives them the edge.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. The reason I have Aston Martin in 6th place instead of 5th is because, and granted, all we really have to go off is, you know, preseason testing and last year. But last year they got off to a really, really strong start, and then just it was downhill for the rest of the season. They really struggled towards the end to keep up with everyone. I do think, and I agree with you, I do think the pairing of Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll is a little bit more consistent than Pierre and Yuki, but I'm unsure about just the pace of the car over a race. So that's why I have them in 6th place. And going into 5th place, because I'll piggyback off of what you were saying about AlphaTauri. I think the reason what's going to put AlphaTauri ahead of Aston Martin for me is mostly how dazzlingly good Pierre Gasly is behind that wheel. I think this is going to be a really, really strong year for Pierre. And I think it'll be even better for Yuki. So that's why I have AlphaTauri in 5th place.
Yeah, I will say the one thing that AlphaTauri has going for them, and this is kind of the way that they've always set up their car when they build a car for the new season, is it has a very, very wide operating window. And there's a lot of directions that you can take with that car in terms of development. And I think so the car package overall is probably going to be the most flexible out of all of the other teams. And we just know that from previous years that's how they said. I mean, Pierre Gasly even said, like, when he was struggling at Red Bull in 2019, he said it's just, you know, when he went back to Toro Rosso, now AlphaTauri, you know, he just said it's so much easier to set up the car because it operates on such a wider window. And I think hello, Cheddar. So this is our other cat that you didn't see the last time, and she's just going to sit here and watch. As she always does. She likes to watch. but yeah, so the car can be set up in a very wide operating range, but I still think that I have Aston Martin in fifth because I just think that that car is quicker.
Mhm.
And I think the Mercedes power unit is very reliable.
Yes,
I
that is
don't
very
think
true.
I don't think that they're going to DNF very much at all. So I really do think that, yeah, I would say that to me, the Aston Martin looks like the fastest package of the midfield. Well, second fastest package of the midfield, I
Yeah.
think. Um, yeah, I'm very confident in what Aston Martin can do. They did have a down year, but I think, Otmar Safnauer, before he moved to Alpine, um, was very vocal in saying, and him and Andy Green, both their technical director, were both very open and honest by saying, we are learning a lot from this experience. It sucks that it's happening, but I think they learned a lot from that, and I think that will take them very, very much forward into the future. Yeah, I think that car just looks really good around the lap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, this is where it gets a little bit easier. The top four seems to be. It seems a little bit easier to predict based off of what we saw in winter testing. So in fourth place, I think we both have the same. It's McLaren.
yep.
McLaren in fourth place. Um, we saw um, in Barcelona, that's a quick car. It's a
Mhm.
really, really quick car. If we just had Barcelona to go off, I would put them in the top three. I would put McLaren in the top three. Um, but when we got to Bahrain, we saw a lot of reliability issues. They're having trouble cooling their brakes, which we didn't see that in Barcelona because we talked about this in a previous episode. It was a lot colder in Barcelona, but
Mhm.
now with testing in Bahrain, it was way hotter, and it was very obvious that they were having troubles cooling the brakes.
Yep.
So I think for McLaren, they have the pace to be a top three team, but the thing that's going to keep them in fourth, I think, this year will be reliability.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think too. Um, Andreas Seidel said that they were bringing a new upgrade in the middle of the week this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's a front brake cooling package, so the air ducts and cooling system and everything. They're bringing a new upgrade. When you develop a car, you develop the cooling systems in a way that can handle like a worst case scenario kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was way worse than they had ever thought it was going to be. But they
Yeah.
are bringing an upgrade package. They brought one. They flew one in early for the last day of testing, um, but they're flying in another one um, ahead of the race. So I think they're going to have a little bit limited time in getting all of that together, and so they're going to have to spend a lot of time in FP1 getting that brake package to work.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to spend a lot of time in FP1 with Daniel Ricciardo, kind of getting himself re-embedded into the team after having COVID. So it's not that, obviously I think they're going to have more reliability issues than the top three, but I think it's just they're starting so much further on the back foot than
Mm-hmm.
anybody else in the top three,
Yeah.
including Mercedes,
Mm-hmm.
that I think that's going to prevent them and we also have seen a trend with McLaren. They start really strong, they have a really good mid-season, and then towards the end of the year their form nosedives a little bit. We've seen that the past couple years. Were it not for Carlos Sainz's podium in Brazil in 2019, they didn't do well at all, and same thing in 2020 and 2021. They took some nosedives at the end of the year in form. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
how well are they going to be able to manage that and maintain the pace that they have in that car over the course of a season is also going to be really important for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving on, the top three. The top three in third place. I think we also both have the same answer for this one. In third place, I think we both have Mercedes.
Yep.
And I know I can already hear the screams. Mercedes. Well, how could you do this to Mercedes? The 7-time world champ, or sorry, 8-time constructors champs. How could you do that to Mercedes?
People are going to be coming for us with a Ferrari flag in the background.
I know. Wrong way. I know I have the Ferrari flag in the background, and I'm not saying this as a Ferrari fan. I'm saying this purely as an unbiased Formula One fan who watched preseason testing. Now, this is purely based off of preseason testing because we know in the past Mercedes have, struggled in preseason tests, didn't do as well, and then first race, bam, came out swinging. So who knows? But purely based off of preseason testing, Mercedes looked like the third best team.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was funny. There was a Mercedes fan that on Twitter that I saw, and again, I'm forgetting who it is, so forgive me for not crediting you. But there was a Mercedes fan that shared screenshots of headlines from every year of testing, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. That were essentially Mercedes on the back foot, not competitive from the start, not going to win races, yada, yada, yada. It was all these, and it was every year, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And the headline for 2020, which was really interesting, was literally just that their power unit was unreliable. It said nothing about their pace. And we all know the pace of that car was absolutely insane. And I don't think anybody in 2020 was thinking that anybody was going to get anywhere close to Mercedes.
Yeah.
Even after like the COVID shutdown and everything, like Mercedes was always going to win in 2020. It was just kind of like, it is what it is. But anyway, it was screenshots of these headlines. The thing about every single one of those years that those headlines come from, there's always been, and I said this yesterday, and I'm going to, in our last episode, and I'm going to say it again, there's always been a lap, a stint, or like literally like the last like 10, 20 minutes of testing that sows some seeds of doubt that Mercedes are going to be slow. That it's like, yeah, Mercedes are going to be slow, but look at this stint that they just did on like in this race simulation that they just did, or look at this lap that Lewis put in, or, look at these 2 sectors that Lewis put in. There's always been something. And I didn't see any of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right that you would see, first 2 sectors purple, and then the third sector is nowhere compared to any of the other teams or drivers. And in that scenario, it's like, okay, they're sandbagging. They're purposely sandbagging. They're purposely backing off in the final sector, doing whatever they can to hide. And it's like, very funny. You're trying to trick us, but it's very obvious. But this year, and looking at the onboards with George, with Lewis, that car looks a little bit harder to drive than the others. They haven't really solved the porpoising issue. Like George, even in the third day of testing, George's porpoising still looked pretty violent. And it has nothing to do with reliability, because we know that Mercedes power unit is very, very reliable.
And the car in general, like those cars don't break.
Yeah, the car is very reliable, but it looked not as good as the top 2.
Yeah.
So who knows what'll happen when we get to FP1 in Bahrain or in Imola or wherever we go after that. But it's just, I think in this case, Mercedes is actually on the back foot for real this time.
Yeah. And I know that they are bringing a supposed floor upgrade to the first Grand Prix weekend that is hopefully going to fix the porpoising problem. But that is hopefully going to fix the porpoising problem that Ferrari and Red Bull have already solved. And the reason why it's so important to talk about porpoising is because to solve the problem without updating the floor, you have to change you have to change ride heights,
Mhm.
and you have to do a lot of different setups with the suspension, which if you optimize it for not porpoising, you have to sacrifice performance. And the
Mhm.
fact that Red Bull and Ferrari are already starting to dial that out of their car with upgrades, with setups and everything, you know, I just think that Mercedes is probably a step behind in terms of getting that problem solved. And yes, it's only a problem down the straight, but you don't want to be sitting in a car that's, vibrating like this down the straight for 50 some laps over a Grand Prix distant. You're going to have to go see a dentist the next day, and you're going to have a wicked migraine after the race. Like,
Yeah, and even Charles came out and said like it really makes you feel ill after an extended amount of time, and no
yep.
driver is going to want to sit in that for an hour and a half.
Yeah. So it's just, and this is not an indictment of Mercedes and they're going to be so bad and they're off the pace and I think they will 100. They will do what they always do, and they will turn up to FP1 and surprise everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's going to be in a way that is going to lead them to be any higher than third in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, it's more so, and you're exactly right. It's not that we think Mercedes is bad this year. It's more the top two have, which we'll get to, where we place the only remaining two, Ferrari and Red Bull, have just taken steps, especially Ferrari after recovering a lot of the past couple of years.
Yeah. Last thing on Mercedes, I will say, is their fans are the most vocal I have ever seen in defending their car, defending their drivers, which is great. It's totally great. But if we get this horribly wrong, we're going to have a big apology to all of the Mercedes fans out there. So
it's okay.
We are going to hold ourselves to that if it comes wrong, but this is also just based off of preseason testing, and
yes,
past trends, while important when it comes to new regulation, don't really matter.
Yeah, because I mean, Mercedes in the blown diffuser era, while they
won one race
in 2013, Lewis, they won a couple races, and then it was all Red Bull for the blown diffuser era. It was all Red Bull.
Yep.
You had that one random season from Braun, but it was all Red Bull.
After Mercedes,
and then in 2014 with the V6 turbo hybrid era, it was all Mercedes, and this is a new era.
And Red Bull was nowhere in 2014.
Yeah.
I will say, and before Mercedes signed Lewis, they had won one race, and it was Nico Rosberg at the 2012 Chinese Grand Prix, which was a fantastic drive. But things change at regulations. So at regulation changes. So
yeah.
Anyway, not to beat a dead horse, let's move on. Second place.
So yes, second place. We both have the same.
Nope.
Who do you have in second place?
Ferrari.
That's fair.
Yeah. Can I'm going to explain myself.
Explain yourself.
So obviously this would put Red Bull ahead. And I do believe that the Ferrari is going to be a very, very quick car. I do believe that they are going to be competitive for wins right away. Red Bull have come off the back of a very intense championship fight in which they have not been in since 2013. So I think they are a little bit more experienced in recent years than Ferrari, because the last time Ferrari was in the fight for a Constructors' Championship, like really had a shot, was probably 2012, 2010.
Yeah.
So I just think,
and before that it was 2008.
Yep.
When they won.
I just think that team, while good, kind of shoots itself in the foot a lot. That team is much more prone to mistakes than Red Bull have been over the past several seasons. And I think the only reason why they have been beating Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship is because Red Bull just have not had a car to get them anywhere. But
or a second driver.
Yeah. I think that Adrian Newey coming back on the team, and this is the first Red Bull car that has been designed by Adrian Newey. If it wasn't for the last 30 minutes of testing, I would have said Ferrari, easy win. But that last 30 minutes of testing from Red Bull was some of the best overall testing from any team that I saw over 6 days of running in Barcelona and in Bahrain. So that maybe this is just me casting doubt over Ferrari or casting doubt over myself. But I just recency bias tells me that Ferrari, I think it's going to come down to who makes the most mistakes. And I think that's going to be Ferrari. I think the only thing that would put them ahead of Red Bull is the strength of their driver pairing. And if they both can be competing, and I think if there's going to be anything that is Red Bull's undoing, it's going to be the strength of their driver pairing. And not even to say that Checo's a bad driver. It's just his qualifying I'm not as confident in as both Carlos and Charles is. So I hope and I pray that the Scuderia proves me wrong, but I'm putting Ferrari in second.
And okay, so in second place, I have Red Bull. I have Red Bull in second. I guess not the only reason, but the main reason why I have them in second and is purely based off the strength of their driver lineup. Obviously Max is quick. And we'll talk about, I'm not going to spoil my preseason predictions. But purely based off of the constructors title, I'm putting Red Bull in second. Now, do I think they have a chance of winning another driver's title? I'll talk about that in a sec. But I think purely based off of the driver lineup, Ferrari have a stronger and more consistent driver lineup. Now, one thing I'll ask you, with how strong Red Bull was at those last 30 minutes of testing, were they tuning up the engines at all?
No team was tuning up the engines.
Okay.
Nope. Mercedes wasn't. Mercedes, that car, George Russell was not even reaching 8th gear by the time he got to turn 14.
Okay. So, yeah, I personally think that Ferrari have a more consistent driver lineup. And while, yes, I agree with you, they shoot themselves in the foot a lot. I think because there's been such a big restructuring of that company and that team, I don't think there will be as much shooting themselves in the foot for Ferrari. Talking specifically about Ferrari, I don't think there'll be as much shooting themselves in the foot this year as we've seen in the past. So that's kind of why I have Red Bull in second. It's not because I don't think that the car's unreliable. It doesn't look as good. I just think Ferrari overall in testing proved to be a lot stronger than Red Bull. So speaking of, no, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I hope that Ferrari proves me wrong.
I hope so too.
I would love to be proven wrong.
If they prove me wrong, I'll pay you $20. If Red Bull beats Ferrari, I'll pay you $20 at the end of the season.
Cool.
Virtual shake on it. There we go. So speaking of, in first place, I obviously have Ferrari. And I know I have that Ferrari flag behind me. It is not because I'm a Ferrari fan. It is not because I'm a very loyal tifosi. It is not because I have a Ferrari flag behind me. It's purely based off of winter testing. Ferrari looked the strongest off of winter testing. And we know how consistent and how strong that driver pairing is.
Yeah.
Carlos and Charles were very, very even last year and were both of them put in some very, very strong races, and they were the most consistent driver pairing last year. They were the team that had the most double points finishes of any other team. And I just think with how strong that car looks, I think that driver pairing will be unstoppable.
Yeah, no doubt that their driver pairing is incredible. And I think when you're comparing their two tests, I would say Ferrari, just in general, had a more complete test.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Red Bull just showed themselves to be quicker. I think when you look at there was a period of time where I think it was Max, Charles, and George were all on the track in the same time on the last day in the afternoon. They were all doing race simulations. Granted, we don't know what program they were doing. We don't know what stints they were testing. They were all on the same tire. And because they were doing race simulations, they were probably very similar in fuel loads. Ferrari usually run a little bit lighter in testing, but they probably around in the same ballpark, pretty loaded up with fuel. It was Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes in that order. And so I think Ferrari had a stronger test, but Red Bull's just quicker. I think that car is quicker. I think the Ferrari is better down in a straight line, better down the straights, because their power unit is so much more powerful. But I think, that's only, 20% of the lap. The other 80% is spent cornering. So if you can't do the twisty bits as well as your rivals, you're going to have a hard time making overtakes. You're going to have a hard time maintaining positions and managing your tires over a race distance. So that's kind of what gives me the edge a little bit. I think, again, the undoing of Red Bull is going to be how close Sergio Perez can get to Max Verstappen.
Yeah. So with that being said, we were just talking about the top three in the constructors. Who do you think is going to be the top three in the drivers' championship?
So starting with third, I'm going to say Lewis Hamilton. I can hear the Lewis Hamilton fans screaming at me right now. Yeah. Third, I'm going to put Lewis Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
The last time he's very good in 1-to-1 title fights.
Mm-hmm.
The last time he was in a multi-driver title fight was 2012. Granted, that McLaren was the third best compared to Red Bull and Ferrari. Yeah, he didn't do nearly as well. And granted, he's a much more experienced driver now. He has many more titles. At that time, he had only had one title.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll be, I think Lewis Hamilton is going to be third. And again, I'm going to say that because I think Mercedes is going to start more on the back foot.
Yeah.
And I think the other couple teams will get a better start. He will eventually catch up. And again, I hope he proves me wrong because he is statistically the greatest driver of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he proves me wrong, but right now I see Lewis coming in third.
Yeah. So I also have Lewis in third. So, and you pretty much said what I was going to say. So who do you have in finishing second?
Charles.
Me too. Oh my gosh.
I have Charles in second.
So I talked about a big game with Ferrari winning the constructors title, but however, I think Charles will finish second. I think Ferrari will win the constructors, but I think Charles will finish second.
Yeah. That means that you also have Carlos finishing higher than Sergio Perez in the constructors championship, which I think will happen.
I do too.
And I think we both probably have the same person winning the title too.
Max Verstappen.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he's going to defend his title. I think, I think so. One, I think he's going to beat Lewis again because in equal machinery, he still beat Lewis. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to be in better machinery. And you look at the times that Max DNF'd last year compared to the times that Lewis DNF'd or didn't finish points last year. Max Verstappen didn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
I think his DNFs were a tire blowout in Baku. He was able to manage 1 point, but only managed 1 point in Hungary because Valtteri Bottas went bowling. And he was crashed out of the Italian Grand Prix, which I think was self-inflicted. But so I think if there's one blemish against him, it's Monza. But I also see that as a 50-50 thing, because if you look at the way that Lewis was racing other drivers, it was completely different from the way that he was racing Max. And he was much more aggressive, not in a bad way, just more aggressive. And so I think if there's one thing to count against Max, it's Monza. But, Silverstone, he was crashed into. I think when you look at Lewis, he, flipped the magic in Baku. Just lots of little other mistakes. Like I think the team made mistakes like in Hungary, not, having to start that race on the medium tires. They were forced into a position by Red Bull in Abu Dhabi where they were not on optimal tire strategy for the last lap. That's not a mistake on Lewis, but that is a mistake for the team. I think also that team is much more, I think Mercedes is much more prone to mistakes because in the past several years, the only teams that they've had to fight, the only team that they've had to fight was themselves. Mm-hmm. And so a bad day for Mercedes is Lewis not winning, even if he comes in second. That's a bad day for Mercedes. And so they just haven't had the competition that they had. And last year they did, and they lost.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have Max ahead of Charles is because Max has been in a title fight now. Charles hasn't.
Yeah.
Charles is blindingly quick, but I think he's a little bit more prone to crashing than Max is. I think when it comes to a title fight, I think Max is going to get the better of Charles.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of inexperience.
I would agree. So that's our top three. Now, I'll start off with this last little bit. I'll start off. Let's come up with a couple things that we think will happen. Not, it can be finishing, but something other than ranking the drivers. So I'll go ahead and start a couple things that I think will happen this year. Prediction number 1, I think Sebastian Vettel will get a win. That's prediction number 1. I think Sebastian Vettel will get a win in Aston Martin. Prediction number 2, I think we will have a 3 to 4 way title fight that will come down to the last couple races. I think we'll have a 3 or 4 way title fight, which is something that we haven't had in a while. I can't remember the last time we had a multi-year or multi-driver title fight, but I think that'll happen. 3 or 4 title contenders coming down to the last couple races. And my third prediction, and I kind of already talked about it, the driver who wins the driver's title is going to be different from the team who wins the constructors.
Yep.
Whether it be Charles winning the championship, I think Red Bull will win the constructors. If Max wins the title, I think Ferrari will win the constructors. Or who knows, maybe Lewis will win the championship, but Mercedes won't win the constructors. So I think that the team that wins the constructors, or the driver that wins the championship, will not be from the team who wins the constructors.
Yeah, I think
those are my three. Those are my three.
I think my first one was that I think not only is every team going to score points, I think every driver is going to score points.
Ooh, because I like that.
obviously everybody in the top 3 teams will be scoring points regularly. I think McLaren will be scoring points regularly. And I think everybody in the midfield is going to have, it's the midfield position 4 and 5 all the way down through 10 is going to be really competitive. And so I think every driver, Guan Yu Zhou, Mick Schumacher, Nicholas Latifi, Alex Albon, like everybody down there that we don't really tout as points potentials, I think everybody is going to score points. I think every single driver is going to score points this year.
I like that one.
And I hope I'm not proven wrong, because I want everybody to score some points at some point.
Yeah.
I think that the 2 drivers that are in race winning teams that have yet to have Grand Prix victories and have been incredibly close over the past 2 years are Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. I think have been just so unbelievably close to race wins, each of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of them will finally will finally be on the top step of the podium this year. I think both of them will finally get wins. And I think the top of the midfield, the person who wins best of the rest, who comes from a not top 3 team, will not be a McLaren driver.
Ooh. Interesting.
That is a little, I think.
That's a little bold.
I think that is a little too bold for my own good. I think Icarus is flying a little too close to the sun. But yeah, I think that'll be good. But we know from testing and we know from past trends, we know all too well that anything can change.
Yep.
Anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be an absolute mega season, and I am very much looking forward to it.
Yes, it is. It's going to be an awesome season. Shades of 2012. I think it'll be a good season. I'm very excited. And we only have 1 week until it starts.
Yep.
How cool is that?
The next time that you hear us or see us, whether it's on Spotify or on YouTube or on social media, our next podcast episode will be the Bahrain Grand Prix review.
Yes. So that will be the next episode we release. And as always, be sure to like our videos, our Spotify, the audio on Spotify, like and subscribe, follow us on all socials. Our app is in the banner.
And just real quick before we sign off, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody that has already subscribed, that has already been liking and commenting, and is already following us along on all of our social medias. We appreciate you endlessly. We could not do this without you.
Yep.
So thank you. If you're seeing this for the first time, welcome aboard, and be sure to share with your friends.
Yes, please share it. Please share it with your friends, all that good stuff. Yeah, I look forward to the season start. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. But please follow us on social media. I mentioned in our last episode that we're now selling stickers on Redbubble. So go on Redbubble, buy a little sticker. They come in different sizes, like small, medium, and large. So be sure, and potentially, if we get more subscribers, more listeners, gain a bigger following, maybe we'll have more merch coming out. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Share with your friends, and pretty soon it'll be lights out and away we go.
Yep. Until next time.
Until next time.